Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome to our webinar today with the title, How AI and Analytics are Revolutionizing IoT Deployments. My name is Petra Schütz from Divya, and I will guide you through the session today. But luckily, I am not on my own today. I'm happy to have three wonderful speakers with me. So we have Cesc Jim from Intel, Christoph Gerkem from T-Systems, and Jack Vernon from IDC. Welcome to all of you as well. But since you know yourself the best, I would ask you to introduce yourself to the audience just with a few sentences. So let's start with Cesc. What do you do and what are you here for today?
Hey, so I'm Cesc from Intel. I work into the network and edge CTO office, and basically my role and my day-to-day is about designing end-to-end system architecture from device to the cloud. And obviously, AI is at the core of most of the use cases that we deploy today, and is driving a lot the technology that we do from Intel perspective. So I'm here to share a little bit my thoughts and with my partner in crime, Jack and Chris, on their perspective outside the architecture. That's my domain, and try to make a collaborative discussion today. So thanks for inviting.
Thank you, Cesc. So Christopher, how about you?
Yeah, my name is Christoph Gerkem from T-Systems. I'm happy to be here today. And I'm here because within T-Systems, I'm heading the unit of digital intelligence. This means we have included all our data-related business in there. It's analytics, it's BI, it's data, but also new technologies like AI, machine learning, and so on. And therefore, we have also built some solutions which should enable our customers to bring their AI experience alive. But later more about that.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jack, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your background? What are you here for?
Hi, my name's Jack Vernon. I'm a senior research analyst at IDC, and I've been focused on the European AI market for the last 6 years or so. And I work with both technology vendors and users, advising them on how best to sort of strategically plan their activities in the market. And that's why I'm joining you today.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Jack, you have a presentation for us for the start. So we will go, we will let you hold your presentation, and afterwards we will meet again for a discussion. So the stage is yours. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Petra. So IDC, alongside T-Systems, has been working on a research report looking at how AI and analytics are revolutionizing IoT deployments. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So investments in IoT technologies are increasingly commonplace for organizations across a range of sectors. Connected devices, infrastructure, and machinery are rapidly growing the pools of data that companies have access to. And in 2022, spending on IoT by European organizations reached $208 billion. Critical market drivers enabling said growth include a maturing supplier ecosystem accelerating IoT projects. So what I'm saying here is that IoT vendors and their partners have now scaled IoT technology, so it's genuinely affordable and accessible to many organizations. The second major driver that we're seeing is the recent disruption accelerating pursuits of digitization. I think we've all seen the recent transformative impact of the likes of COVID-19 and how it's pushed more companies towards greater investment in digital transformation. And this trend has also helped to buoy the IoT market and will continue to do so. Despite impressive market growth, IoT for IoT's sake doesn't make sense. Simply having access to new data through more connected devices is meaningless if an organization is incapable of extracting value from them. Many organizations are failing to realize the opportunities that IoT technology can enable. The missing piece here is data science, AI, and analytics. It's with these secondary technologies, IoT becomes truly transformational for organizations. Progress is already being made by many in this area of combining AI and IoT. In a recent survey of European IoT users, nearly a third said that they are already using AI for some functions within their IoT projects. Now, to unpack that a little, What advantages does AI offer IoT? There are two types of value offered by AI to IoT, and the first comes in the form of the ability to structure data in real time to enable new applications of the technology. AI's powers around pattern recognition have transformed our ability to bring structure to unstructured data like images, sound, text, conversation, and language. One particularly interesting example is in the manufacturing space, where we've seen the emergence of AI IoT startups focused exclusively on detection of sound and vibration of crucial operational equipment in order to alert managers for a requirement for maintenance. These sensors are physically attached to manufacturing equipment, such as robotic motors, and they can detect subtle changes in sound and vibration they produce, which indicate whether they need servicing. This can avoid major production line stoppages, which can lead to organizations saving millions across the course of a sort of 5-year period. I'll continue with a few more examples of this type following on the next slide, as they're particularly pertinent to T-Systems technology offering. The other value category offered by AI and IoT is in the processing of IoT data using AI to drive business insight and automation. One of the best examples from recent years that I've seen is the European international energy giant ENGIE. ENGIE owns energy assets across the globe. Through recent investments in updating its IoT and data infrastructure, it's now able to collect data from all those assets. This isn't just about data collection. Using AI, ENGIE is able to make sense of the data, enabling it to undertake transformative projects, one of which is to decide where it should invest in new energy assets. Because it's now effectively collecting regular IoT data from all of its wind farms globally, it's able to build AI models which can forecast locations which will yield the highest returns in investments in wind. ENGIE is starting to make new investments decisions based on this application and believes it will make significant savings in the future because of it. ENGIE has also built a system called Optinoise, a model developed to evaluate the acoustic impact of wind farms. Wind turbines can generate a lot of noise, and in some regions, wind turbine noise levels are beginning to be regulated to protect residential areas. Using IoT data, ENGIE built an algorithm that takes data from multiple sources such as topography to identify residential areas, as well as weather and wind forecasts, and then calculates in real time the noise impact to help plan wind farm strategies, particularly in regulating the speed at which turbines can rotate. So I think I've tried to sort of demonstrate here the two types of value that AI is bringing to IoT. First, in sort of structuring data that's directly coming into IoT devices, whether that's image recognition or sound recognition. And then on the other side, perhaps IoT data is being more centralized and processed, that again, this is delivering a lot of value to businesses too. So I'm now going to talk about, I've talked a little bit about the two types of value AI can add to IoT. I'm now going to talk a little bit more about the first of those that I outlined, i.e. leveraging AI to enable IoT devices to structure data in real time. Now, this is an area where T-Systems AI proposition in the form of AI Solutions Factory, IDC has identified as being particularly strong. And I want to give the audience a bit more of a flavor of the use cases we're seeing emerge in that particular space. First off, one such example is laser welding quality control. Laser welding on virtually all automotive production lines is now mostly completed by industrial robots. Robots improve speed of production and reduce risk of injury to employees. However, the quality of welding can be difficult to measure and control throughout the process. An automotive business wanted to improve welding. To do this, the organization leveraged IoT cameras that used AI image recognition algorithms to analyze welding in real time and then feed back information to the robot control system, enabling it to make adjustments, improving welding quality. The automotive manufacturer will be able to increase its production yields as a result of the project. The second use case I want to highlight is site management. Airports, bus, and train station operators must deal with active management of their facilities on a daily basis, a task requiring major coordination and that has a large impact on the customer's impression of the quality of service. Transport operators are introducing the use of image recognition to help with site management in several ways. A number are using image recognition to detect lost luggage. This is achieved by identifying luggage that has been idling for a long period of time and then highlighting it to the local staff. Several other operators are using image recognition to identify when a bin, for instance, is full, and then automatically alerting the cleaning team when it needs emptying. Trials have shown a noticeable impact on operators' Net Promoter Score. And the final example I wanted to touch upon is digital inventory processing. A large enterprise wanted to improve management of and inventory in its warehouses. To do so, it began using a drone to inspect the stores of its warehouses, automatically logging the warehouse's inventory using image recognition. The approach using the drone with image recognition worked out to be far more cost-effective and less time-consuming than the RFID approach previously used by the company, amounting to impressive savings for the business. So we've established that there's an enormous value opportunity for connecting for companies building out IoT projects leveraging AI. But now I want to look at some of the difficulties in the process and why a large proportion struggles to get those projects over the line and into production. When we asked organizations what percentage of AI projects make it into production, it was no surprise that for 80% of respondents, they only get between 1 to 20% of projects fully deployed. Some of this may be legitimate experimentation, but we know from our conversations in the industry that many organizations are failing to go from experimentation into production because of issues they're running into along the way. And this is very much true for IoT projects too. So why is this happening? What are the stumbling blocks causing issues for organizations? Why aren't we seeing more companies delivering projects that improve performance and grow margins as a result? When we asked about the top reasons currently stopping organizations from taking AI proof of concepts into sort of full implementations, these were the top 5 responses. So first of all, the cost of associated AI development tools. So many organizations feel if they don't have the skills internally to build software or systems using open source technologies, they have to opt for commercial AI development tools, and these can be particularly expensive, and that makes the projects prohibitive. Second is the lack of skilled personnel that's around both IoT and data science, and the combination of the two in particular. This is also leading to many projects falling by the wayside because organizations simply don't feel that they don't have the expertise internally. And it's not just having those AI and IoT skills, it's also other parts of the stack, whether it's within the sort of IT team or within sort of data engineering as well. There's huge shortfalls of resources there too, and companies often run into issues with that. The third response that people gave, or the third top one, sorry, was the cost of associated computing infrastructure. So AI can often require specialized compute resources such as GPUs if you want to train models to a certain degree of quality. Also on the IoT side, it can be challenging for organizations to deploy models to edge devices, and you need some specialist expertise or potentially hardware around that, and that can become prohibitive too. The fourth reason was lack of adequate volumes of training data. I'm going to touch upon this a little bit more going further, but many organizations often don't, or they realize partway through a project that they don't have the access to enough data that they need for sort of training and testing, or they'll run into compliance issues internally around whether they can actually use the data in the first place. And the final of this top 5 was concerns about maintenance over time. So models can often drift in terms of their performance. The environment that they're deployed into can change slightly, and organizations realize that they don't have processes in place around managing this and making sure those models are sort of actively maintained and up to standards. And this can become prohibitive too. And this is very much an emerging area of sort of AI and IoT in general, is sort of management of these systems over time. We're starting to see some software technologies emerged to do this, but it's still a relatively new area. So now what I want to do is potentially offer some advice to organizations interested in the combination of these two technologies. Unfortunately, I can't make data scientists cheaper to employ. What I can do is offer to those of you on the call 4 pieces of critical advice, which I think might be helpful if you're looking at getting into this technology area. So first off, too often data scientists are handed a pile of data and told to make magic happen. They spend some time in the process of exploration. They may even find some interesting trends and begin to develop models. However, as they hit barriers or challenges, projects often fail or get sidelined because there was never a clear narrative as to why they're important to pursue in the first place. Instead, organizations should start by thinking about what technology outcomes they want to achieve, what would save their employees time, and what's going to tangibly reduce costs and improve the bottom line within the business. And these need to be quantified and understood. Then when an AI project hits a stumbling block, the entire organization is met with clear metrics as to why the challenges should be overcome. Start investigations into AI by scoping prospective applications for technology within the business. Begin by learning the potential capabilities offered by AI and consider how these could be potentially mapped to different business problems within your organization. Join interests across IT departments and the business units. Stakeholders within business are often in far closer proximity to understanding the value of an application than leaders in IT. It's critical to focus on engaging leaders from the business when developing AI projects and strategy, as this will lead to the highest value solutions being developed. So my second piece of advice is around being realistic about the capabilities and capital involved in developing and implementing IoT projects leveraging AI up front, and make sure these requirements, the requirements at every stage are not a surprise, essentially. So what I've done here is try to map the various tasks involved in developing an AI IoT project, and then also the sort of capital investments from a technology and human capital perspective. So on the technology side, first of all, you've got IoT sensors. I've crudely used a camera, a Mascom there, but there's many different types of sensors that you'll have to deal with. And you need to develop data pipelines that can potentially extract data from these sensors or push models out to them. Data pipelining technology is improving all the time. We've seen the emergence of Snowflake in recent years, but there's open source technologies around Kubernetes and Docker. But this is a critical part of the process that needs to be considered. Then there's model development itself, and you've got commercial systems for building and developing models these days. And you've also got open source technologies, which are pretty well known as well, things like scikit-learn and TensorFlow. They're effective to use if you've got skilled personnel who are used to using them, but they can be challenging otherwise. Then you've kind of got implementation of AI models. So if you're pushing models out to edge devices, then you'll need to interact with some of the sort of software technologies we're seeing there, whether that's OpenVINO, which I'm sure Zach can tell us a little bit more about later, as it's very much an Intel-driven project. And you've got the Open Neural Network Exchange too. These are sort of software ecosystems that are allowing organizations to push AI to the edge. Then as well, you've got to consider an implementation as to how it will affect your existing business systems and infrastructure. Is this deployment going to change some of my processes within my CRM system or my ERM system? That's definitely worth consideration as well. And connecting these technologies is potentially challenging. And then you've got infrastructure again. As I was mentioning before, often AI models can require some kind of specialized compute hardware if you want to do them to a very accurate level, or if you want to be able to train them in a significantly short amount of time. So you might want to use some cloud infrastructure to do that, or potentially invest in some localized infrastructure as well. And then you've got this task of sort of model management over time. And as I was saying before, we're seeing software technologies emerge there as well, but this is kind of a specialist discipline in itself. But I think many organizations, when they sort of kick projects off, they believe that they can perhaps get away with making one data scientist or a couple of data scientists reliable for this whole gamut of tasks. But I think when you're looking at deploying at scale across an organization, you really need specialists across data engineering, specialists in your IT department, which can help with deployment of models, and then potentially machine learning engineers as well, who can provide that role of tracking deployments over time. And in many cases, you might decide to have someone be the head of this team too. So the third piece of advice that I wanted to offer to organizations on the call today is develop best practices to ensure scalability and create a feedback loop of learning from project to project. Having established that all AI projects need to begin with business cases, not the possibility of interesting exploration of data sets, organizations should begin to build up a set of best practices and learnings that can help them ensure AI projects make it into production. These should be focused on building trust in the technology. So often within organizations, there's ethical concerns around the use of AI. By developing a strategy around that, you can kind of negate those. Also, by working out standardized technology approaches, whether it's standardizing around particular software tools. For developing and building AI, you don't want to be investing in new software tools every time you're starting an AI application. And also as well, you want to develop best practices to ensure that IT, data science, and business teams are all aligned project to project, and ensuring these interactions improve over time. And finally, I think someone within your organization, it might be you on the call today, really needs to be the key business case hunter and proponent for AI and IoT projects, sort of bridging the gap between those within the team who have this understanding and capabilities around AI and the rest of the organization. So it's often sort of senior stakeholders within departments that will be able to quite rapidly shut AI, IoT projects down very quickly. So building sort of understanding of AI's capabilities within those departments and ensuring that everyone's pulling in the same direction can really help to improve ratios of success. Organizations really need senior staffers that are able to gain the trust of the rest of the business and get them excited about the combination of IoT and AI and those critical early projects over the line. So just to wrap up my presentation today, I think organizations should evaluate the opportunities made possible by AI and IoT projects. Many organizations already are winning big with the technology. And if your organization is yet to consider the types of value you could deliver with this combination of technology, then begin assessing the potential use cases today. Don't go in blind. AI and IoT projects present some significant challenges for organizations looking to develop them. Consider these in advance and ensure there's a strategy in place to deal with them. Make AI, IoT projects scalable. Learn from each project, improving the strategic approach to AI and IoT on each iteration. So that concludes my introductory presentation today. I'm now going to hand back to Petra, who I think is going to drive the further discussion. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much. So now we're all joining again for the discussion. Let me just quickly stop the presentation. There we go. All right. So if we just want to tie on to Jack's presentation, I would have a question for Cesc and Chris. What do you think he missed in terms of his advice to organizations, especially those getting started with AI, IoT projects?
So I think, well, the presentation is amazing, Jack. So I think that you did really good job comprehending some of the challenges that organizations are facing with deployment of AI. In my opinion, there's one aspect that I think it would be worth to expand with the flow that you described, which is basically the trust on AI, right? And what I mean by that is that with a lot of POCs and evaluations in the lab using synthetic videos and see how the models behave, how the applications behave. But the reality is that when you deploy the real applications on the field, like there are some glitches that sometimes make AI not trustworthy, right? And an example was that we developed a model for safety, for identify objects on the highway, and the camera that was connected in the real deployment had a small glitch, and basically that AI model was detecting planes in the highway. So the reality is that when you go on deployment at larger scale and you have hundreds of thousands of edge deployments, I think one extreme challenge that we will have to face is, okay, how we trust those models and how do we make them accurate over time, right? And this is some of the, I mean, we will talk about it during the presentation or discussion today, but I think it's something very important for us to be mindful about how much do we trust or how we validate the models when they get deployed.
Chris, did you want to add something to that?
Yes. First of all, I think this was a very round and complete presentation of Jack. Thank you for this. Great work. And I think, like you said, this is very important that the business case should drive upcoming AI applications in AI topics projects. Therefore, I think let's take 1 or 2 years in the future. There we expect that there are popping up several AI communities, AI projects, AI experience, proof of concepts, whatever. So this could be within an industry, this could be also within one company. And this is good. This is good. But to keep it under control, I think it's very important to install, let's say, a clear central data governance, which a clear rule set and a clear definition of what kind of topics are allowed and what not. I think this will be one of the keys where we have to take action for now to be ready in the future.
Right. Thank you for adding this. I think we will go back to what you just said a little bit later on as well. But let's take a look into the potential and growth of AI IoT applications. If you look at smart cities, financial services, industrial, gaming, transportation, retail, health and life science, and many, many more, AI IoT has its presence, complex applications there. Where do you think the organizations across industries can get the most value from AI IoT projects? And what are the most innovative applications of AI in IoT projects seen by you? Who wants to go first?
You take it, Chris.
I can do it for sure. I think AI is every time useful there where there are some business leaders or business decision taker have to take decisions. Therefore, AI can be a very good supporting system. And for the future, if you look for the big amount of data we are expecting in the next year, this is absolutely needed that that an AI solution takes some of these decisions. Because today we know AI as a support system, as a support to human being, so that the human being keeps the control of it. But I think it's needed and absolutely necessary that in the future, AI takes over the control. They have to step into the driver's seat. And every time where this happens, companies and also industries can get a lot of benefit from it, because this is simply needed to handle this huge amount of data.
And I think that to add on top of what Chris said, right? So that I think for me, one of the key aspects is huge data, right? Because I mean, if you look at when you go at scale, right? So we're talking about, again, as I said, hundreds of thousands of cameras, sensors, lidars, and stuff like that. So realistically, like, how do you do this compute at the scale, and basically thinking edge and IoT, not just like the last mile that you have some compute that is connected into the camera, right? It's going to be a continuum from the device to the cloud, and then you have to really carefully design the system so that you do the right level of compute into the right place, and that you filter the data that really needs to be processed, right? And I think that looking at this scale, it's going to be important, but not only from the architectural perspective, but also we'll talk maybe and also like just alluded at sustainability, right? So we talk about sustainability, and what we do is include more streams that need to be processed like 24 hours a day. So we have to find the right balance of what do we need to compute and when, right? Because otherwise it's really like consuming energy and consuming more energy, and that at scale per se, it's a challenge that has to be looked globally. And finally, what I would say, I think, well, and we'll talk about this more, but I think Chris is spot on in terms of the data privacy and sovereignty, right? I think that it's not entirely clear yet, and when you look beyond like the local on-premise type of deployments, how we can really manage the data that gets processed, and more important, how while you democratize some of the data so that the overall society gets benefits of safety and things like that, how you empower like society to keep privacy and manage their own data, right? So I think that these are some of design principles that can be contradictory sometimes, and we need to marry them. And I think that from organizational perspective, that's going to be something that we need to really address for the next few years.
Yeah, and just to respond to that too, what Christoph and Cesc were saying is that there isn't one particular sector that this technology can be applied to. It's really sort of globally universal across all industries, can benefit from this. But I think one area that springs to mind that could really benefit from the combination of this technology, and we started to see it during COVID. IDC runs a competition around sort of AI projects every year, and a hospital in the UK basically developed a sort of IoT system for forecasting the pressures on the hospital, and for forecasting, how much particular resources they had available at one time and how many more patients they could handle by sort of networking connected devices and measuring, say, how many oxygen tanks they had, how many beds they had available. I think it's like this type of application that we're going to see a lot more of, sort of really tracking what is happening operationally within an organization, and being able to become a lot more agile and respond to the changing environment on the back of it. And I think in particular, healthcare will hopefully be transformed by this, because it really needs to happen.
Maybe if I may add something on top of Jack, that he planted a seed on my brain while he was talking. I think that I was talking about the scale and the challenges that it provides, but it's true that AI can help as well to develop new use cases that really improve sustainability, like more from the AI perspective. Like, for example, I was in a discussion with some port entity that basically they were thinking about using AI to manage how the ships get into the harbor, and optimizing the energy consumption and decontamination that they do when they are getting into the harbor, right? So I think that there are a lot of potential that AI can help us to optimize some of those things and be more efficient, fleet management and stuff like that. So that was a very important point, Jack. I agree.
Okay. Did someone something to add to this? Or shall we go into the next question? All right. I think security and sovereignty are a very, very big and important topic combined with AI. I've heard this in your answers a few times now already. So if we take a look into that, with growing number of IoT devices, security is becoming a priority. The Internet of Things isn't just about locating objects and using them to sense the surrounding environment. or accomplish automated tasks. It's a way to monitor, measure, and understand the perpetual motion of the world and the things we do. The data generated by the IoT will provide deep insights into physical relationships, human behavior, and even the physics of our planet and universe, which becomes very vital for industries like public and government administration. So from a security and sovereignty perspective, what are the fundamental security capabilities that organizations should focus on building high-impact AI IoT solutions? And the second question, where individual rights are well protected, what would be the role of AI and IoT in building digital sovereignty? Big question. Who has an answer?
Well, I can try to take a step first. I think so. Data sovereignty and data protection is a huge topic per se. From architecture perspective, what I can say is that we have to look at I mean, at least from technology perspective, we have to provide the ingredients that basically allow like the ISVs developers, the personas or like the customers deploying those models to have what we call secure enclaves, where basically I have my own model, my own data, so I have to be capable to protect myself against the potential attacks or other people or other programs accessing to my data, right? So we are developing technologies around like SGX, TDX. There are networking technologies like TLS and stuff like that that allows us to protect like compute, data, and data store, right? I think that we have those capabilities. The more fundamental area that I think that we have to understand is beyond protecting my own data, how do I can share that, and more important, how I can trust data or information that other entities provide to us, right? And I think that we'll have to start marrying how the technologies that we have, that potentially you can combine them to achieve different security models, how actually they get mapped into these end-to-end flows. But I think that we have some like GDPR and this type of regulations that we have in Europe, but I think that we have to comprehend more use cases that they are coming now, and basically more important, what data means, right? And what provide more capabilities and more mechanisms for the data that is owned by someone, how that data can be exposed and processed beyond the security hardware or software constructs that we provide, right? And I think that this is something that we need to work on as more as a society than technology per se, if I may say.
Yeah, you're right. I think beside from the technical side, we should also take a look for, let's say, from a security perspective regarding the competition level. If you look at continents like Asia or US, where they have not so restrictive data privacy rules like we have in Europe, to be honest, they are in front in developing their AI applications. And I think it's hard to take this because I'm happy to be a European citizen because I know my privacy data and all my own data stuff is secured and not flowing around the world. But I think it's now up to the government or the European region now to set up a clear set of rules so that we have them in the ballpark and know what companies are allowed to do and to achieve. And then for sure the investment in AI will be some little bit bigger in the future. I expect that.
Yeah, I mean, just to further that point perhaps a little bit more, my advice to organizations is really to set the highest standards possible in respect to data sovereignty, because we're about to see maybe 4 or 5 critical pieces of legislation in the European Parliament that will affect this space directly. And I think it's only by being sort of quite conscious of those and how they might have an impact. Are you going to be you're going to guarantee long term that you're kind of doing the right things from project to project? So yeah, I would just emphasize setting the highest standards possible when it comes to digital sovereignty.
All right. So let's jump to the next topic, to the next question. This is specific to SESC. From a hardware perspective, how have digital leaders in the technology world collaborated to ease the deployment of AI to IoT devices? And what's the most cost-effective way to begin developing and implementing AI?
So, well, I'm going to be my view, but I'm sure that Jack and Chris they add on top of it. But I think, I mean, it's very interesting if you look how AI has evolved for the last few years, and how the ecosystem has developed new concepts to make AI more affordable and more easy to handle. If you look, like for example, there are like beyond the hardware that we Intel are working, for example, on different types of accelerators, which is more on the low part of the system architecture stack. You see other things like, for example, MLOps, right? So there are lots of tools that now are being developed as a framework to basically allow you to explore AI at a scale, right? And really understand when you are training models, how they behave, their characteristics, and really like do exploration at larger scale. So I think ML flows, for example, it's a good tool to do this type of exploration. So MLOps, I think it's one of the important things. There are also like other challenges that you have is, for example, how you optimize and tune those models, right? Because one of the, if you have done AI training, so you know that there are multiple things, epochs, and other things that you can tune for a model, and they can drastically change the performance and how they behave, right? So another aspect is auto-tuning, right? So how I do optimize my models, and there are lots of part of the ecosystem like Optune and stuff like that they are helping the community and optimize those models. And finally, but not least, is like, okay, now I have my models, how I develop my applications on top of it, right? And in this case, if you look, for example, obviously there is PyTorch, there is TensorFlow, and all these huge amount of large communities working on the frameworks and themselves. But also, like, you have things like OpenBino that is from Intel, that with a software layer you can deploy your models and implement your business application logic, being abstracted on the complexities of the hardware underneath, right? So I think that we're in a very sweet moment in a sense that we start to have lots of tools that are driven by the ecosystem. I think that's very important, right? And also, like, if you start connecting that with democratization and data sovereignty and stuff like that, so the more standardized the tools we have, the better, because more eyes are looking and optimizing towards the end solution. But I would say it's very, if I have to summarize, I would say, like, yeah, MLOps, auto-tuning, and the programming models and frameworks that we have from the whole ecosystem perspective.
All right, thank you.
Can I just come in here and say as
yes,
well
of
that
course.
this is, I think, been a really big change in that previously the different parts of the technology stack really were kind of unconnected. Mm-hmm. So you might be able to build a machine learning model in TensorFlow, for instance, that could do potentially interesting things, but actually pushing that model out to, say, an IoT device was incredibly challenging unless you were hugely expert in that specific task itself. So I think this has really been one of the most significant changes that we've seen in the last couple of years, as Cesc was saying, and a lot of that's been done by the various players within these ecosystems.
And maybe just one to add on top of what Jack said. I think also, like, the AI models. I mean, you would think that you have YOLO before, and then that's the last stage. But you can see that this is progressing time over time, right? And now you have transformers, and we will have something else coming in the following years, right? So this is an area that is very exciting to be related in your work, because it's changing and evolving every day, and there are like things that are improving drastically, things that you can do in the various domains, like and changing real life, like healthcare, for example, right? So I'm very excited as well on how the AI community, more from the neural network perspective, is moving and making things improve year after year in directions that we would never expect like 10 years ago.
All right. Thank you. So Christoph, we heard about AI Solution Factory. Can you tell us more about it, and what does the technology roadmap look like for AI Solution Factory?
Yeah, for sure. I will give it a short try. Like Jack already showed in his presentation, most, if not nearly all of our customers plan to do something with AI, but it is just something with AI. And if you look 1 or 2 years later, hey, what did you really realize? What is in production mode? You see just around 5 or 10% of all the ideas coming alive into the AI application. And now we have developed an own solution. It's called the AI Solution Factory, which is the answer for that. This allows our customer to getting started with AI. It's you have to imagine it's kind of a self-service platform for our customers where they can train their own models. They have to bring their own trainings data into it, and then the system runs, and let's say in the outcome there is ready to use model for them. But also customer can come without training models, and therefore you can say, okay, I want to use some of a model which I asked the customer already deployed on the platform, and now is offering this to other companies and customers on the platform. And therefore it is a very easy and also cheap solution for smaller and big customers to say, okay, I want to do something with AI because this realizes the something in it between. And if you ask for the, let's say, strategic outlook, or let's say the roadmap we have in our mind, there we plan to, or let's say it on this way, the actually AI Solution Factory is focusing on use cases which is used by computer vision. This is all image recognition, or it's always object recognition based on images and video files. And in the next step, we also want to include NLP, natural language processing, so that the machine learns how to handle data which is based on voice or speech or something like that. This would be offer a whole set of new use cases for us. This just in a few words.
Thank you very much. So now, after so many great insights, I would like to ask you one last thing. Cesc, maybe you can go first. Can you share your final view on growing AI capability potential and where the industry should focus on?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if I have to wrap up all that what we have discussed, right? I think that my call to the community is to really, like, we have all the ingredients that are needed to build AI and deploy it at scale. I think that connected to what Jack and Chris said before, right? I think that we need that beyond the technology, we need a better guidance and alignment from the institutional perspective, and making sure that we have clear policies and that we really organize how AI can be deployed at a scale into the different parts of our regions, right? Coming from hospitals to street to transportation in the highway. So I think that we need to, now it's a little bit Wild West in the sense that a lot of players developing technologies and deploying stuff in outside. I think that it will be a moment where we really have to have clear rules on how things get deployed, but more important, not preventing innovation to happen, right? So on the other way around, it's like making innovation happen, but always guided and providing like tools to make this innovation happen in a more kind of organized way, if I may say.
All right, thank you very much. Christoph, what do you think? Where's the biggest potential for industry, and what should be the focus in terms of AI?
I think my answer is very close to the parts Cesc already had in his answer, but I think in the last years, we or companies or the business spent a lot of money to be enabled to use their data, to have their data foundation. They have structured data in their data lakes, data warehouse, whatever. Now they are able to use them, but they want also to scale. They want to scale on their data, and this often brings, let's say, a central IT unit is the bottleneck, and therefore they have a more decentral approach to it, so that the single business units are, let's say, enabled to do their own AI application, which is good. I think it's the right way, and therefore it's absolutely necessary, like Cesc said, to bring this more central data governance approach to it.
All right. And Jack, what would you like to add to what we heard already? Where do you see the biggest potential for AI to grow capabilities, and what should the industry focus on?
I think in Europe in particular, the issue of digital sovereignty will kind of need to be more fully addressed. And I think what we're seeing as well is that IoT devices are getting more technologically capable. It's been driven by smartphone manufacturers of improving the sort of fundamental underlying technology. And what we'll increasingly see is, instead of data being pushed between the cloud and the edge, is that we'll try and aggregate models across both areas, and you'll see training happening sort of on devices and centralized in the cloud as well. And I think this will enable organizations to preserve digital sovereignty for consumers, and the kind of fundamental architecture of AI IoT will change. But this will be hopefully a really positive thing, and more effectively allow for data protection within society.
Right. Thank you so much, Jack, Christoph, and Cesc, for taking your time today, for sharing your valuable knowledge, your opinions, your experiences with us. Thank you for this very good discussion we had, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar as much as I did, and I wish you all the best and see you next time.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.